Jeg vil gerne byde jer velkommen til denne her runde af Business and Technology konferencer. Og første indlæg, det er jo fra Accenture Digital med Alexander Fritsch, og jeg vil bare overlade ordet og sige velkommen.
Thank you. I'm going to have this in English, and hopefully the computer will bear with me here. My name is Alex. I'm happy to be here in Odense today to talk to you about the digitization that we can see around us, and specifically IoT as part of that, so Internet of Things. In my daily work, I'm helping clients to understand and to act upon the changes we can see around us in terms of the digitization and the developments in Internet of Things. I'm working with Accenture currently, and we are supporting our clients in that exploration of what that means for their businesses, and helping them, of course, also to act upon that. When we look at the change that this digitization has upon the companies around us and also on ourselves, we are disrupted as well as a company, and we are changing our own business model and operating model to fit to that. So we are starting to collaborate even more intensely with partners in an ecosystem of innovation and startup to explore what's actually happening with the digitization in IoT and that area. And we're also, of course, looking at the front-end development, so the human interface of those things, to be able to advise our clients on what to do in the future. But if we look at the future, so will we as companies be able to sustain our own development in the view of the changes which we can see in the markets and in technology? And there's enough data around to indicate that if we don't adapt, we will not be able to stay in business, because the change is so rapid and so fundamental with the digitalization around us. There was a study done by InnoSight around the data from the Standard & Poor, giving us the view that the lifespan of a company is extremely decreasing. So basically we are looking at something, instead of 15, 25, 50 years a while back, to become more in the range of 7 to 10 years. Sorry. So meaning that from now on, the next 10 years, 75% of those companies will not exist anymore in the shape or form that they're existing today. So actually, what is happening around us? So why is this happening? And just to create a common base on what we view as IoT, so we see the development of interconnected devices, things being able to connect to each other, exchange data, communicate with each other in every aspect of our daily lives. You know, from the basic utilities of our life, to transportation, to the way that we shop, our healthcare, our homes. Everywhere there will be sensors collecting data, and depending on the rules and algorithms behind that data, they will then execute actions for us without even knowing. That's what we mean by IoT. And the reasons from a technology perspective why we see this happening right now are multifold. Yeah? So basically we have a massive decrease in cost, you know, for memory, for computing power, you know, for the cost of sensors, which makes it available basically to put in a small sensor in every milk carton we have, every shirt or shoe that we're wearing. And the interesting thing is, it is also becoming an enabler for the small and medium-sized companies, partly represented in this room, that you will be able to access that technology at the cost that is now existing. So where it was maybe earlier too expensive to be actually implemented, now it starts to become a commodity with commodity pricing, and therefore we can see this host of startups developing on this new technology, just buying a drone, buying an iPhone, putting them together and flying around delivering parcels or whatever. We have, of course, this proliferation of smartphones. We have the cloud computing, the data collection, and the connectivity. Everything plays together to enable the technology foundation for this Internet of Things that we are seeing. There's another trend which we should not forget, which is about the human behind or beside or above all this, So the digitization of everything, together with our, as consumers and customers, ever more liquid expectations. So liquid in terms of, we want the things that we like, information, services, any point in time, accessible everywhere, instantly. And we call that liquid expectations. And the liquid expectations is something that has developed over time from when the web and the internet started to develop and we got connected. Our desktops got connected to the internet and then to each other with the emergence of social media. We got connected to everyone in a wider aspect again. The mobility made it, transportable. We have it in our pockets. We have it with us all the time. So we expect more and more, faster and faster. And we think that this now is starting to emerge into what we would call living services. So basically, services for us as living beings around us without even noticing. So, we have all read about the initial experimentation with, fridges that start screening the contents of what we have there. We have Amazon developing the dash button. If a milk carton is out of milk, we can quickly reorder that. Think of developing this into an automated, by my own, preferences steered service, which knows that during the week I do not need that much milk because I'm not really much at home, but in the weekend I usually do my cafe latte and stuff like that. So there comes a shipment of milk just in time Friday afternoon when they know someone is at home, and fills up the fridge. So basically a living service around my milk drinking behaviors. So that is not far away. So we will believe that these things will develop around us. They will be reading our preferences, our intents, and they will be understanding what we need from smart algorithms predicting our next step, our next behavior. And it will be across the current existing industry boundaries that we have. So it's not retail, and it's not consumer goods companies on their own. It's a combination of a retailer, logistics, and a consumer goods company together with the producer, maybe even the farmer of the milk, knowing that there's more milk, during winter times compared to summer times or whatever. That is something that we will see evolving and connecting to each other. So the automation of some easy decisions for ourselves, the long-term learning by saving all the data we have, and across different types of industries is more around our environments, like it's home, it's work, it's school, maybe it's around, when I'm on vacation and things like that. So we see this developing, and the combination of the technology factors and the consumer expectations together create this huge demand, which we are now starting to fulfill with the digitization and with the Internet of Things. So the main question that we put to ourselves then being a management consulting company, advising our clients in how to strategically take advantage of this is, how can we create business value out of that? There will be a demand in the market from the consumers, and there's technology to enable it. So what can we do to actually harvest from that? And we see it around three major patterns. So one being to achieve operational efficiencies, to gain insight into your production, your supply chain, your marketing efficiencies in order to be optimizing your business in the current existing operating model. That's one point. The second one is basically to move from products to services. I mean, me as a consumer, I don't care about the washing machine. My end result's basically the clean shirt I want to put on. And how I get there, unfortunately today, involves a washing machine, but maybe not necessarily all the different steps I need to take to get to my clean shirt. Yeah? So it's more, the question, what's the service behind the product that you're actually trying to address the need with the product and move away to that service rather than the product. And in the last step, you will be able to utilize your partnerships, across different industries, all the data, the consumer insight, to create even for you right now unknown revenue streams, new business models, which you can tap into and you can gain some money from. That's the next level of maturity, if you wish, into this. So if you take a look at examples, operational efficiency, pretty simple, I would argue. Large companies assembling, constructing things like, in this case, Airbus, with, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of parts in this kind of flying machine, yeah? But if you put a sensor to everything and you'll be able to monitor and correctly assess the state of your equipment, they are able to predict the maintenance intervals to an extent that they basically don't have any breakdown failure, which the flying industry anyways does not want to have, and therefore they do a lot of service in advance, an extra service just to be sure that something does not break. But by analyzing the data and by looking at the material, they can assess how much of that, preemptive, maintenance that they are conducting actually really is necessary. And they can time the maintenance schedules to even tighter windows, saving a lot of operating cost on that. But they're also, of course, optimizing the operations in terms of flying, the consumption patterns by monitoring the engines, at different levels, different loads, in different weather conditions, and so on. So savings in operational efficiency, and this applies to basically all the industries, regardless of whether you have a lot of parts or fewer parts. There are examples, from logistics and transportation companies. There are examples from automotive companies, but also around, household goods, consumer electronics, mobile devices, and things like that. There is money to save by more exactly knowing when something will break down and why. The next level then, rather around, moving from a product to a service. One bright example being Michelin tires, this rubber thing having existed for a couple of 100 years, and it was just, for most of us a nuisance to have to change. Yeah? And who cares, in the rubber thing of the tire? The thing I want to achieve is, I want to drive, I want to have mileage, I want to have some sort of fuel economy, racing performance, long lifespan, or whatever I'm looking for. There's an end to the tire which something it needs to achieve. So Michelin considered this and developed a unit delivering, mileage as a service rather than the tire. So by putting sensors in the tires, in the cars, being able to more accurately assess, the wear down of the rubber in the tire, and also connect it, to the load and the driving distances, the speed, the external conditions, they were able to build models that made them predict, when to change a tire on a large lorry or on a fleet vehicle, a sales car that runs, I don't know, 30, 40 or 50,000 kilometers a year. And thereby, pulling in them and giving them the service of exchanging those cars in regular intervals. And by that basically moved into a service model on an outcome. Yeah, the client is buying mileage and certainty in running his car or his lorry rather than the rubber tire. The next level, where we were talking about, efficiency and new revenue models, comes from farming equipment. A pretty old-fashioned industry, some think, but the developments in and around farming, due to the demand of operational efficiency in farming, has really driven development in the farming industry. And I don't know how many of you guys know Claas, one of the largest farming equipment providers in Northern Europe. I drove from Billund to Odense yesterday, and I saw all these huge fields harvested pretty recently, beautiful scenery. But these guys that they provide these farming equipment, Claas, harvesters, plows, whatever, they come from this, pretty simple metal things. But they early on started to put sensors into their machinery also to assess, how our parts working, how our machines working. A harvester, maybe being able to switch between different types of crops in order to optimize, the collection of the barley or the wheat or whatever he is trying to collect with this harvester. There's a lot of electronics in these machines, and they started to develop this as being able to provide maintenance services, just as Michelin, to the farmers. But the next level of collecting all that data was to build a platform, and together with a couple of other players like Bayer for the crops and for the fertilization chemistry and things like that, and a couple of online players, they basically created a website, a service which enables the farmer to connect his vehicle park, to put his fields on a map with all the soil analysis into those, and upload everything, everything he knows, his harvesting and crop planning cycles and everything, all the weather data, everything is combined, mashed up, and it's called FarmNet 365, and it's a complete farm management service where you basically connect all your equipment, all your field data, all your crop data, and you can, serve, plan, simulate, analyze, optimize your entire operation. So this FarmNet 365 is a completely new service, a completely new revenue stream, and it's a completely different business model as compared to just selling a harvester once every 10 years. So we're looking at something which is very transformational. It's basically moving from a product-oriented industry or economy to a outcome-oriented economy, where I pay for, the harvest rather than the harvester. We ourselves are operating in this kind of environment. We are working together with Fiat, helping them sell cars, and we get paid by every car sold when we have done the marketing campaigns properly. So we are helping them optimize their whole marketing campaign operations, and the payment we get is when they sell a car. So we move to an outcome-based model with them. A couple of things to keep in mind, though, when we see the possibility of going there. So how, as a company, need we behave? What do we need to change in order to get there? Because everyone is thinking of it, there's not one in this room probably who has not thought of, okay, how can I utilize this technology? I mean, you are in the midst of this innovation fair. You're anyways looking at that, yeah? But it also, as we said in the beginning, it's necessary, because if you don't do that, then you will be out of business in a while, yeah? Because someone else will come up with that idea, and he has all the tools available, and he will just make it and do it. You know, there's a lot of disruption around in the industry. You've seen that with all the examples everyone already is mentioning, you know, around putting together people and selling, you know, digital services like hotels and cab rides and all that. But everything starts with the customer in mind. Regardless of whether you're a B2C or B2B companies, or whether you are working with consumers or other companies, you need to figure what is actually my customer's need. So, okay, he buys right now a robot from me, but I mean, the robot is not what he needs. I mean, he needs something that fixes this piece of material into another piece of material, because at the end of the day, not even this change in, you know, how the material looks is what he wants, but he wants to deliver some service to someone else. And you know, that service to someone else, if you can get behind the idea, so why actually is he working with this, and why is he buying this from me? So what is his basically end objective? Then you can, you know, think in different ways to, together with him, maybe serve that end customer. Yeah, or how you together with someone else can serve your clients. So learn to look at new data sources. Yeah, don't look at your own data or the industry data, but take other industries, take other examples, bring in, you know, customer insight from different industries, mix them with your own customer insights, and think of ways to segment your customers new, group them new, find other, you know, interesting parts in the economy which could be addressed by your. Test and learn. So come up with ideas, test them, collect the data, evaluate, try again. So test and learn, this whole cycle of, you know, trying to test new things, try to predict things, use visualization of data in order to understand patterns. And one of the interesting things in the last one here is, you know, try to put data together to create context. You know, if you collect customer touchpoint data, you know, some customers looking at your website, it maybe is not only the fact that he looks at your website, it's when, it's what, you know, where did he come from? So you put all these different things together. You know, I mean, also now in logistics, you know, containers are not only looking at where are they, you know, GPS or location data, they are also collecting data around temperature shifters, pressure shifts, how the cargo is handled and managed. So they put a lot of contextual data around the, you know, the core information that you maybe initially be interested in. Put that together, mix it up, create visuals that you can easily detect patterns, and think, you know, what's behind all this? Why is this happening, and what is the actual need that I want to fulfill? And then, of course, you need to have a couple of capabilities. And I'm not even down in the techniques. Yeah, some other people will talk about technology. We're looking at as a business. So what are the different traits and traits that you need to look at? You know. Try to look ahead, you know, be out there, be at these kinds of fairs, be out on the internet and just surf and search. Have someone in your team be a trend scout or whatever, you know. Try to get mechanisms to work to collect not only what is happening in your company, with your partners, in your industry, close to what you do, but 1-2 steps further out, yeah, to see where are the next things that could impact my business, whether it's downstreams from where my stuff comes or upstreams where I'm shipping my services or my products. So anywhere in the whole chain to the end consumer, where are things happening, and what's the change, the next sort of disruption I need to take into consideration. You are supported if you put the right team together. You need to challenge yourself, your management teams, and your R&D teams and your production teams and marketing teams by just mixing them up, old and new, different types of cultural backgrounds, different types of industries, different types of experiences, because that will help you create the innovation, the creativity that you need to come to the next service, the next level, where you think that this is probably something which, you know, could be of value to our customers. Let's try it out. Because the next thing, you know, try fast, fail fast. You know, it's back to, you know, we have a hypothesis, we put it out in the market, it doesn't work, we redo something. It's, you know, way back when we started to develop websites in the 90s, you know, this agile type of development. Let's put out a button there. If anyone uses this, we keep it. If they don't use it, we put it away again. So this whole idea of, you know, trying out things, learning from your mistakes, going further. Try to reconsider your own, you know, darlings, your production lines and your customer segmentation or whatever you have as, you know, this is our world, this is fixed, we believe this will hold up. Just make an exercise of trying to constantly ask behind it, is it really still going to be that way next year, in 3 years, in 5 years? For that, you utilize all the data. We talked about that earlier. You try to mix up all the data that you get from production, from your consumers, from the marketing. You pull in competitive data, weather data, geo data, whatever, census data. Try to find those interesting connections which you base your hypotheses on, and then try and hopefully develop your offer. Trust is one important thing, of course, with all this digitalization going on, with all the data collected. Everyone is also, of course, always in his back of his head trying to understand, okay, what does it mean? How much of my own, let's say, privacy, integrity do I give away by all this data? And the thing is, the only thing that will help you navigate this, that will make us able to move past this sort of fear, is transparency. A couple of years back, I helped a large European airline developing, you know, personalized services based on customer data. And the main thing, the key enabler was to give the customers the transparency on what data actually they are giving away to the airline through the different touch points along the customer journey. What is the airline then saving, transforming, calculating, and showing to the client again? So this is the data we have on you. We utilize this for marketing, for check-in, for transportation, for luggage. And you can, as a customer, then click and save, and you can decide, you know, what data should be kept for what purposes. So the only way to gain trust along the customer journey is to be transparent about what you have in terms of data and what you're doing with it, and to give the option to the customers to actually decide what you're allowed to do. And the EU is just, you know, now revisiting the data privacy laws and regulations to enforce this, which I think from a customer-oriented perspective is, you know, it's obvious. I mean, we shouldn't hide the things we do to our customers. Yeah, we should be open about it. And this last point, build the ecosystem, you know. Be out there, collaborate, innovate, try to find, you know, the partners which are thinking differently. You know, it does not it can be short term, it can be long term. You know, you need to be experimenting and exploring. There's so much happening, so many companies developing, so many new startups. You can't just wait until they get established. You need to be there, work with them, projects, do some experimentation, some proof of concepts, and see where it takes you. Yeah. So, in order to be able to say, okay, hi again, 5 years from now, everyone has succeeded the IoT journey. Keep the customer in mind. Explore the entire ecosystem, yeah, all the startups, everything which is out there. See what you can make use of it. Start small, fail fast, grow from there. You know, don't put too much organization to it from the beginning. Be nimble, explore, and then build your skills, yeah. I mean, in the way of you need to attract and try to retain the right skills in your teams in the future, because it will be about the people that are out there learning constantly, renewing their insights, your ideas, so that you can build those teams that you then can build your business on. So basically, these are our recommendations to you in order to navigate and to harvest from the developments of digitization and IoT we see around. My colleague Kim and I, we will be around here outside, questions and answers after the session. I know Rune has prepared maybe a couple of questions right now, and you can also fire away. But after the session, we'll be out there, talk to you, at least until lunch. If you have any questions, you're welcome. Thank you.
So, anybody that has a question to Alexander? Okay, then I have one. A lot of industrial companies are using what we call stage gate model, where you have a lot of decision gates before you actually do something. How do you see this stage gate model compared to your recommendations here?
I think you can fit that into the stage gate model also. I mean, either you have stages, if you are in the early R&D, for example, you can do some POCs, some pilots, and develop, your hypothesis and your testing and your learning as part of that initial stage. And already at that level, you will gain enough insight on, which customers could be interested in this kind of service, and it could lead you even to be more thorough in your thinking around the business case and the business opportunity. But I think that is one model. Yeah? On the other hand, you could also envision a model where you say, for the mature ideas, you have the stage gate process, and if you don't want to experiment, with it in only stage one, but maybe take something into market, you could either put that into maybe a small unit running beside, like Michelin. They had their original operating model. They created a little extra business, independent of their regular stage gate processes, just trying it out, establishing it itself, and then learning. So I think you can do both ways.
So when I talk to industrial customers, I see a lot of them say, we don't dare to sell directly on the internet because we need to be careful about our distribution channels.
Yeah.
How do you see that in the future with a more efficient distribution channel? Do you see that affected by the disruption that is coming?
Yeah, I mean, one blunt way to say it is, okay, you can argue then and you will be left behind. But that, of course, needs some more facts to underpin this. I mean, there's enough evidence, from all the large consultancies, including us, that a multi-channel approach generates additional revenues, even if some of the existing channels suffer a little bit. But the overall gain is positive. There's enough evidence in different industries to look at that. And the next part of the answer would be, and we have these kind of discussions, with companies like Alfa Laval and Tetra Pak, and they are themselves already in that kind, I have the opportunity to go direct to my customers, and some maybe prefer that. And I need, of course, to manage my wholesale and redistribution network to take part in that. So again, it's about the transparency of data and the transparency of your business models, and find, some mechanisms how both parts can gain from the additional business that you will attract. Because again, the customers, they are not black and white. There will be some needs, even one customer maybe needs to fulfill through the normal channels, and another part of the business that can go direct. Or maybe a couple of customers go direct, whereas others stay indirect. It's never the one or the other. It's always a combination. And if you address that proactively with your wholesale level and retail level, showing them the data, showing them the opportunities, showing them how that could work, then you can agree and go on and go further and benefit both from it.
Thank you. There's a question down there.
If you
probably have to.
So if you have unique selling points for IoT, what is the key killing points?
That's a good one. So unique selling points we have. So what's the unique killing point then? I don't know. Maybe we are too early again. Of course, a couple of the things that we have here demand thinking, at least thinking in terms of, there will be a huge amount of data. There will be the need for some sort of platform to integrate all these kinds of standards. And still we have very, very many standards in all these sensors, so that could be a killing argument. We say, okay, that will take a while and they will change. But on the other hand, again, it's developing so fast, and also the standardization of those, protocols is starting, to be streamlined, so that just waiting again for some standard to emerge will not be the answer. Yeah? So even if someone would say, this is all in flux and we can't do anything because we cannot really see the patterns emerging, again, it will be too late once you are starting. Only if you have certainty around what this can bring to you. So I would turn this, maybe killing argument into, again, a call for action rather.
Any other questions? Okay, then I have the last one. So, IoT has been discussed for many, many years. Do you see the technology as the challenge, or the business thinking, the business processes as the main challenge?
Well, at first you said as a challenge and then as a main challenge. So I think you have challenges in both technology and business, absolutely. But I believe that the main challenge is in our own heads and in the business, often in the top management, which are rather financially driven, earnings driven, maybe sometimes also a bit short-term driven, and therefore it's always easier to calculate a investment in a cost efficiency rather than an innovation. Yeah? Kai Christensen, one of the great lecturers in Stanford, has written lots of books about that. How the pressure on our CEOs to gain, operational efficiencies puts all the money to cost-saving initiatives rather than innovation. And that we now see in the emergence of all these, we call them small startups, which, in a year's time generate $1 billion of revenue because they just go and do it. Yeah, they don't, they are not afraid to maybe lose a percentage or 2% of their EBITDA because they don't have any when they start. So they're starting from a green field. Of course, that makes it much easier. But the large, still block for the development of this in the larger corporations is just, the fear that the operations and the business will not really be able to transform, and they're looking at too small steps in the wrong direction. And I think that's the main problem, and hopefully you can avoid that being here in the innovation hall, startups and all, and make the best of the technology, because the technology is there, it's cheap enough, it's just grab it and do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Alexander.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.